Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket jacks. In this hand, folds around to me in the cutoff, and I open raise. My open raising range is going to be pretty large in this game. This is just basically all of it, including all of the expanded range. Of course, I could tighten up a little bit, but let's just say we are at a game where I see fold to steal at 76, fold to steal at 82. A little unknown. I'm just going to raise as much as I can. This is my 12th hand at the table. Players don't know what I'm doing, so they may just assume that I'm going to have a tighter range and go ahead and fold, and I pick up the blinds pretty easily. If called, no big deal. I have jacks, which is pretty good. Filling for 3-bets up to nine big blinds. That's a pretty standard 3-bet. This is an unknown. I don't know what he's going to be doing this with. Maybe he's doing this with a wide range because he thinks that I might be stealing. Maybe he's going to be pretty tight. For this hand, I think I'm just going to go with like about 9%, a little less than 9%. It has the broadways, suited offsuit broadways. It's got the high pocket pairs. I would assume that like the lower pocket pairs, 8 and lower, some of these connectors here, suited connectors, probably just going to call. Maybe even some of these weaker offsuit Broadway hands, just going to call because they'll be in position. So we're gonna go with that range, and then it folds back around to me, and it's to jacks. So definitely I'm gonna be calling with jacks. So let's set up what we're not gonna be doing. We're not really 4-betting because I think that's gonna be my standard 4-betting range, and then we have hands that we could also 4-bet. So if I knew the player, I would probably, and he's widening larger because he has because he thinks I steal, I would probably also raise those hands, but I think they're going to be in my calling range along with ace-5. The suited kings I'm just going to dump. I think most of the suited aces I'm going to probably dump, and that's the really low ones, and then these middle ones, a6, a7. I think ace-5 just kind of keep ace-5 I think is part of my 4-betting range here. I'd keep ace-4 just to kind of, you've got some Broadway possibilities that you could pick up. So did I say Broadway? Not Broadway. The wheel possibilities. So I mean, we could kind of see how what we're doing, how we do. All right, so I think we've got our mid pairs, our mid connectors, our higher suited cards. We are going to call with king queen, and then I'm dumping all of these offsuit hands. We're out of position. It's going to be hard to play them. It's going to be hard to play them, so especially when we're out of position. So I think this is going to be my calling range in a hand like this. Now this wasn't necessarily what I would have been playing when this hand was actually played, but this is what I hope to do moving forward and plan to do moving forward. So I did call, and flop comes down all diamonds. The 10 of diamonds, 7 diamonds, 2 diamonds. That seems scary. We don't have a jack. I'm sorry, we don't have a jack of diamonds, so we don't really have a redraw. Villain's a little bit unknown. I'm worried about the diamond, just like he's worried about the diamond. What are we gonna do? Do I think we bet? No, I don't think we lead here at all. I think we're gonna be checking. We're gonna be checking basically 100% to the pre-flop raiser, and then we have to consider what's gonna happen when we do check. Well, if we check and villain bets, which I kind of expect him to bet, board's a little bit dry. Board's a little bit dry. I open raised and then I called. possibility that I connected with the 10. I mean, I do have pocket 10s. I've got pocket 7s. I've got like 8 9. I've got 10 9, 10 jack in my range. Villain, you could easily have aces, kings, queens, ace king. He could have diamonds. He could have like ace king offsuit with ace of diamonds or king of diamonds. I do expect him to be betting here, making a c bet. If he doesn't, I think that's a little bit suspicious, because it's like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you bet? I guess unless he has like kings with the king of diamond, aces with the ace of diamonds, you can check and hope that I take a stab at it. So I check. He bets, and he actually bets a little bit smaller, and I think that's a good thing because I'd expect some larger sizes with, let's say, an overpair and probably also a top pair. So maybe I'm gonna say we're gonna include sets because he doesn't want to build a big. Well, no, I think we're gonna include all of these pocket pairs, less than the top card, top card. I think all of these he might be going a little bit smaller. With the flush, he's betting smaller to try to encourage callers. Is he going to be doing with all of the flush? Maybe only just the nut flush. So let's take those out. Maybe king, jack, queen, jack. He'd bet a little bit larger. I think he's doing this with the flush draws. Is it going to be with all the flush draws? Yeah, I think so. So 60% AC betting. Is this a spot to check raise? Maybe. We don't really have anything. We don't have backdoor draws, any backdoor equity. We don't really want to see a queen, king, or ace come, because if we do, then it's possible that we just lose. If we're ahead now, it does help to define our hand. So if we raise, we could raise up to, let's say, 14 big blinds or 15 big blinds. If he calls, we can lead out again with maybe like 20 or 25, and at that point, I'm going to say we're probably going to be getting it in, and it's going to be scary. We don't want to see a diamond, that's for sure. We don't want to see a diamond. But the flip side is, because we're doing that, because we're making the bet, we can't really, if we check or raise, we can't really check on the turn, because if we check on the turn, we open up we open up the possibility that he's going to be betting fairly large. And now we're going to be risking our stack. And same thing like on the river. If we bet and he calls on the turn, but then we check, we open ourselves up to a big bluff, and it would be hard for us to call. So because of those possibilities and the way the board textures looks, I think it might be best just to check call in this spot. Are we going to be check calling with everything? No. I think we're going to be check calling with flush draws. Definitely there'll be weaker flush draws, and you can see they're all basically part of pocket pairs. I think a gut shot could be called to jack 9. Top pairs definitely going to be calling. I kind of think we're not going to be ever check raising here because it would be hard. We don't really have a nut flush. We should. Ace 8 of diamond. Well, no, that's part of the flush. Yeah, we don't really have a nut flush yet. A nut flush here. I think 8s and 9s could be calling here. Middle pair. Yeah. Pocket pair less than second card, I think, is where we give it up. This middle pair. 6-7, 8-7. Probably lean more towards 8-7. Middle pair with 2-card backdoor, gut shot, backdoor straight. So I think that's going to be our check calling range. So we check called, and then the river hits, and that is a 3 of hearts. This 3 of hearts is a pretty innocuous card. If I'm ahead, I'm still ahead. I think for the reason of trying to avoid getting into a major pot. I think we're probably just going to be check calling. He bets 14 because then our raise should be closer to 42 big blinds, and that's not going to leave a whole lot on the river. So that kind of makes me think that if we are going to raise, let's say 42 plus another 30, 70, that our check raise would be essentially all in. It's a little bit more than pot. Maybe that is the play. We don't really want to see a diamond. We don't really want to see any overcard come. It is aggressive. Now what's different was he bet smaller on the flop, and then all of a sudden came in with a half pot size bet. So I'm starting to think that maybe he himself has, one of these hands that he's trying to get me to fold. So I don't think a flush. I think set's going to be a little bit cautious, a lot more cautious. Same thing, kind of overpair, maybe. So I'm going to say like top pair, pocket card, less than this top card. I'm going to take these overpairs out and say that with this sizing, it's almost like it's a draw. It's a flush draw that he's betting here. Could be wrong. Could have one of these other big cards. But he's totally unbalanced, and maybe that is why we would go ahead and hit it with the big raise. So I'm going to take out like the ace, king, queen, and jack, but we'll leave in the 9. So maybe like 9s with the 9 of diamond. He's thinking that I have it. So perhaps this could be a big check raise. This could be a check raise spot that I missed. I didn't. I actually called. So, I think if we look at my range and say, well, what could I have been check raising with? Flush. Set if he calls with like ace of diamonds, king of clubs. He would probably call that. So we're getting a lot of value from that. I think we're getting value with our overpair. And maybe even more top pair. I think top pair is just a little too much here. So we're at 38%. So let's take out the rest of our draws. So overpair plus, it's 38% for a check raise. That would be pretty solid. I didn't do that. So yeah, I'd probably just call with the set. The flush, I think at some point we would have to raise, but I think once I check call the flop, I'm gonna be forced to check call down to the river and just hope he bluffs at it with our flush. What about our calling? I think pocket pair less than the top card. He's now bet. I think that gives us reason to fold. The weak flush draw is probably a reason to fold, unless it's part of pocket jacks. I think that's it. So that's probably what we're calling. We're gonna have a pretty strong range when we check call twice, and then 8 of spades. Again, I think that looks good for us. What's our play? I think, as I just said, once we decided to check call, if we had the flush or the set, once we decide to check call the flop, we're probably forced to check call the turn and the river again, and just hope he bluffs it. I think that's probably some of the GTO strategy. So we did check, and then villain checks behind. I wouldn't have expected him to check the flush. So once he checks behind, I actually feel pretty good, like I'm going to be ahead. So we see a showdown. What does he have? He has ace diamonds, king of hearts. So it's kind of matches what we expect. He bet small because he didn't really connect with the flop. He does block the ace of diamonds. And then, once we called, instead of raising or anything, he thinks maybe he could force us out by betting half pot. If we check raise, do I think he folds? No, but I think this is a hand that he calls, so we could increase our overall EV by making that check raise on the turn with jacks. And let's go back here, block that out with overpair plus. That is a lot of hands. Because we'll have quite a few overpairs, but I think we set ourselves up well to win a stack. Yeah, it's possible that he has diamonds, but he 3-bet, so he's showing he could be aggressive, and now we could see that he was doing this with ace king. All right, hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look tomorrow for another hand.